Hello, welcome to the YouTube channel. Alexander Simchenko. Now we have October 8th. In the evening, traditionally at this time, what has changed on the fronts of the Ukrainian war in the past 24 hours? And there is a name, I would even say a breakthrough. Just after lunch, a message appeared about that. What about the Krasnoarmysky direction? More precisely, even to the shame of Krasnoarmysky. And what does this mean? This speaks to that the ring around the Never Group is a left court. Well, it's practically closed already. There is only a little bit left. It is extremely inconvenient to go out through the open terrain hidden from artillery fire, drones, and Russian aviation. SO listeners, well, even if they don't get into the ring, they won't get into complete encirclement, then leaving this ring. Many of them are just, they will simply die. Well, let's start with everything in order from the traditionally. Although if without lyrical outbursts, activity on a particular section of the front. In the 8th day, the greatest activity was observed in the Koronevsky district. Russia continued to put pressure on the Lyubimovka and in the Nikolov area But I want to know what to draw your attention to. All these battles are battles of local significance. So far we have not seen any major breakthroughs. According to logic in military science, they should be. And not blows, must be worn, bypassing attacking groups in the weak spots. Well, that is, across the territory of Sumy and Kharkiv regions. This will allow areas, and secondly, go out. Russian troops have already entered operational space, having broken the defense of the terrorists of the northern Ikovo. Something similar, by the way, we saw with you, in particular in this area in 1943. I hope to see a repeat soon. I hope that the Russian army really can repeat. Merchant direction, under the control of the Russian army. The entire village of Sinkovka has been taken. I've actually lost count of how many times. But Sinkovka, as the red base passes from hand to hand, I hope that this time ours will not give in. Our troops continue to put pressure on the Kolesnikov government, 3 Kruglyakhovsky Ledge. There are fierce battles going on over the past 24 hours. There have been changes along the front line. This is despite the fact that there are less than 1 kilometer left to the bank of the Oskol River. The servants do not have the most convenient composition. But for now, Russian soldiers, they still can't get over this kilometer. Russia has stepped up pressure west of the Sturmikovka, expanding its presence on the right bank of the River Stallion. Ours closed the pocket between the streamer and the base of the Pashinovsky Ledge is being strengthened. Sources in Sioux write about that. What terrorists expect that Russian troops will continue to advance further west towards Zikaling. And if such a plan really exists, and if it can be implemented, then we can talk already. Not about tactical advancement, about operational tactical. The success of Russian troops in this area. Krasnoyarmansk direction. Russia continues. Expand bridgeheads on the western bank of the Stallion area of the village of Makeyevka and There are also battles in the area of the entire Novosadovo. Here some positions change hands several times a week. There is good news in Chesov Yar. Russian troops advanced in Oktyabrsk micro-district, taking control. A few more blocks of urban development. To Dzержinsk. Here the fighting continues between Rudniknaya Street and by rail, on the approaches to the central mine. By the way, some kind of belated reaction in the media space of the Reichs. The channels started shouting help alarmo. Russians in the center in Dzержinsk. So the Russians have been in the center for a long time and are fighting for the citadel. Yes, here. The central mine is essentially the Dzerzhinskaya citadel. And there are also fights south of the street. Lermontov is moving forward. Positional battles. In the Dzerzhinsky direction, they also go in the area. And Russian troops are advancing. It's dry in the village area. It's interesting. The video with losses is right here. In the Dzerzhinsky direction. 150th Brigade wait. I posted it on my Telegram channel today. Alexander Simchenko. Who needs details? I'm sending the Telegram channel. You can find it in any search engine. For example, in the same Google or Yandex. Type the words with that via Telegram and go. Watch, subscribe. Well, I'll tell you briefly here. 75 personnel of the 150th Brigade are missing. Well, that's the level of loss. That's it. Those who are not taken into account listed as dead. Well, and plus 300 too. Well, a little more about the Ukrainian resistance. But they operate not only in civilian life, but also includes a mustache. Now we only learn about heroes from reports. From the battle they talk about those whom we're able to catch. But sometimes others just hide the roof. And among the servants and ordinary people, this morning a resident of Odessa came out to the pedestal where the monument to Catherine II previously came out with the Russian flag. Despite the fact that there is no law in the Reich which would provide for punishment for the Russian flag, the woman was detained after all. All videos from the scene are on the Telegram channel. Alexander Semchenko, go see. Be sure to subscribe. Well, I'll continue the review. The Red Army direction continues. To the south of the village of Lysovka, Russia is wandering. Zone of their control. Ours is also moving west along the highway. Krasnoarmeysky encircling the city of Seladovo from the north. Also, Russian troops are moving forward south of Seladovo. Well, the battles are going on in the west of Sukhirin. Russia deepens gap between forces Novoselidivka and Izmailova. In fact, this is a very serious advancement. Very seriously. But complicated the situation for the group in ISU, both in the city of Gornyak and in the village of Kurakovka. Well, here is the summary of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian liberation of the village of Ozernaya Wanaya. That's what it says in the report. Zornaya first. Most likely a mistake was made. Most likely we are talking about the village of Zorino. Well, since the direction is just indicated by this, and if the village of Zorino is real, came under the control of the Russian army. Well, you can't even imagine. Although I think you can imagine. How good is this news? Well, who doesn't know? I suggest you evaluate this news by looking at the map. In the site of this, in essence, is the castle which is formed around the group in Suaa. In the west, there are eastern. In the area of Nelipovka, Kurakovskoye, direction is recorded by the movement of the Russian army in Maximilian. In the village. Fighting is already taking place directly on the territory. Active hostilities. On the southern outskirts of Katerina, in the eastern outskirts of Antonovka, Russia is striking across a fairly broad front. From Aladar to Victory, promotion tax there are Katerinovka and Antonovka. Our Russia is finishing off the rural police brigade in even ISU. After her escape from the coal mine. Here is some interesting news that came from the city of Pavlograd. Arrived at the temporary deployment just point. The 72nd Brigade. Iskander has arrived. In general, it was not possible to escape. Surrendered. A shot of a precise strike on your screens. But do you have any advice for all the listeners when raise your paws up? You have white panties there. If you have white ones, take them out. Swing over your head. And surrender, you will be alive. Because Volgograd, on this line of combat contact, almost 100 kilometers and I made it. Well, and there are none of these sleeping 72nd Brigades there. As for the news of others, from other directions, then Zaporozhye is a difficult direction. Positional battles are underway. Work artillery, work of drones. Aviation is getting involved, and it is very productive. As you can see, aviation is getting involved. Of course, there will be more news about all the most important. You will definitely find out on the Telegram channel. Alexander Semchenko. So subscribe, and put a rocket on Router.